Hey, hello fellas, Frankie Dave, back again on YouTube. Today on YouTube I have update number 2 on my U.S.S. George Washington Ballistic Submarine, sail number 598. Okay folks, I've taken off from the last video. I went ahead and assembled the rest of the components and the parts and painted the same. Gee folks, this is a tedious paint job, this thing, these little parts. A lot of parts on this kit, so I took about a few days here just to get as far as I got on, which I'll show you. So far on the construction of it, I went ahead and assembled the fore and end sections of the hull itself, such as the stern diving planes, the rudder, and the screw, and also the sonar, which is the George Washington had, which is where the torpedo room was at. The other exterior part has been cemented to the hull. And the following sequence was applying washes in the interiors. I went ahead and painted, as taken up in the first update I done on it. I toned down the interior green by using a wash of white and green. And with the white and green, it actually toned down the interior green. And the other parts were given various washes for highlights. A lot of them won't be seen because they're all covered up by decks and sub-assemblies and bulkheads. But they're there if you have a good keen eye, keep looking at it. So anyway, folks, on this submarine right here is a very interesting build. It's got me interested at no end. And a little history about the George Washington, and before I present the update number 2 on her. George Washington was actually, as a technical note, folks, was the first ballistic submarine the United States Navy had at the time. In the 1950s, the United States Navy was going through a lot of refits and a lot of programs for submersibles and submarines. A lot of them, when I was a child growing up in the world, a lot of them we had electric boats that we used, which were converted Gato class or Ballistic class submarine electric boats, and they were actually converted to the Guppy class. And the Navy, that was actually an advanced measure partway between nuclear powered and a conventional electric boat. So evidently what they did with the U.S.S. George Washington, before she was in view, she was actually on plans but never was launched or built yet. And after the most successful, the first nuclear-powered submarine was the U.S.S. Nautilus, sail number 541, and her sister ship was a Seawolf. They were both identical sister ships. And later on, the Navy began toying around with missiles. So evidently, the Seawolf and the U.S.S. Nautilus, they messed around with Regulus missiles. They could only be launched when the submarines at surface only. And so as time went on until the late 1950s and turning of the 1960s came, they created the ballistic submarine. And that was the George Washington. The George Washington had four identical sister ships. She had the Daniel Boone, the Abraham Lincoln, and the E.T. Allen, and the Thomas Jefferson. They were actually the George Washington class. And George Washington was actually decommissioned in 1984. And the Dallas class and Ohio class came out, which followed after that. Before the U.S.S. George Washington was launched, the third nuclear class submarine that was incorporated in the United States Navy using a reactor was U.S.S. Skate and also the U.S.S. Skipjack. The Skipjack class was a fast attack nuclear-powered sub. Had a dive depth of 800 feet. It couldn't supersede that. The crush depth for the Skipjack was anywhere from 1,000 to 1,100 feet. The United States Navy, when they designed these submarines, they gave them a 50% margin of crush depth value. Like I mentioned before, on the Skipjack class, crush depth is anywhere from 1,000 to 1,100 feet. And anything beyond that, you're in the frontier of harm's way. And During the launching of the U.S.S. George Washington, she had a crush depth of, she had a diving depth of 1,300 feet. She couldn't supersede any more than that. But the 50% margin for her crush depth is anywhere from 1,900 feet to 2,000 feet. Anything beyond that, she's a frontier of the rapture of the deep. We all know what that means. Prepare to implode. So anyway, folks, that's that. And another technical note, too. A few years ago, we had a little fuss with the Japanese. They had an emergency blowout on the George Washington. She came up to the surface, and as she came up to the surface, she hit either a Japanese picket or a fishing ship that was out there. And it was kind of like everybody's pointing fingers, whose fault, who's what, you know. So anyway, enough of that. That's kind of blew over like a fart in the wind. So that's a technical note on the George Washington right there in that respects. So let's get back to the update. Okay, fellas, taking up from the last update I've done, on number 1, like I've mentioned before earlier in the video, I already went ahead and assembled the aft section of the deck. The rudder is functional, the screw turns, and also the stern diving planes work, as you can see. You can see as a rudder turns also. And I went ahead and see in this section, which is the sonar and the torpedo room, and I went ahead and this has got to be, before the final painting and priming is done, this has got to be filled in here and filled in here, only left side of the hull, because it's joined as an entirety on this hull. And the other side, which reveals the inside, will fold over by using the special unique stand that Windwall incorporated in this here kit. Okay, as it's swinging around here, folks, this is where all the goodies is at. Time consuming. Let's get in there. As I get really close to the webcam, you can see I've got the torpedo room. The torpedoes are all painted and mounted. The torpedoes are painted by using gunmetal color, which is a color of a mixture of silver and a little flat black and a hint of blue. The tips of torpedo were picked out orange red. You can see in the torpedo room. You can see the berth. This is where the torpedo men is normally berthed at their station. So that's where all the torpedo men's berthing department is at. Now, as they proceed aft, they go through the hatchway here on this bulkhead here. They go through the hatchway here. Boy, sorry folks, kind of hard to maneuver a pen with a. You follow the picture. They go through there and they proceed aft, and the stairway goes down. This is the main control room right here, and below it is the mess decks, and the galley is right behind the mess decks. I'll get a little closer so you can see it. You can see the mess decks. Down below is the crew's quarters. That's where they sleep at the berthing compartment. This section here, extreme aft over here, and this section here. Right here, folks. This is called the CPO, Chief Petty Officer's berthing, and also where they eat at, in the galley. And the control room right here, you have all your electrical bus panels here, and right over here forward here, that's where they control the diving planes and control the submarine as they trim the submarine. And I got all the bulkheads have been installed all the way aft. Now I'll get a little closer. The wiring was picked out with a felt tip pencil. Before I did that, I applied a wash of flat black to the consistency of paint thinner. And let gravity fill the whole thing. Let it dry. When it's dried, I picked out a felt pencil. 2 felt tip pencils, Sharpies. A red and a blue. And these lines come out perfect. I'll get a little closer as you can see them. You can see how perfect they got. You can see the wash that I applied on the bulkheads there. As I tilt this a little forward more, you can see the wash on them. The wash fills the bill. And for this section, aft is all engineering and your reactor. The other part of the hull here, which fits here, is on the stand. It fit like this. It will fold back up like this. It's movable because you got two hangs on the stand, which fits on this hole here. And the other hole is like a saddle, which right here will fit the other side of the hull to keep this hole stationed. Then the other hole will tether over like that. So you get the picture, folks. So anyway, that's as far as I got. So next I got to work on the ballistic missile compartment, which ain't be a little deal. I got to assemble the missile tubes, fill in the seams and the joining seam sides where they join together, and go ahead and give a primer of white and go ahead and paint yellow on there, and proceed aft. And after that, the exterior parts will be painted next. So that's that completes the update number 2 on my U.S.S. George Washington. So number 3 will be coming around the corners. Number 3 will be actually be the completion of the interior of the hull. And then I'll start on the exterior part. Then the model will be finished, and that'd be that. So no hurry on this one here. So I got a group build coming up. So I'll put her down the side with her dry and leave her alone for a while. And tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and start on Mark's Speedy 197's group build, 1960 aircraft. Again, folks, I'd like to stress one more time again, prop-driven aircraft are honored and welcomed on his group build, because there's a lot of aircraft that flew out back in the 1960s. You had for the Navy, you had the P-3 Orion, and you had the P-5M flying boat, and you had the Goody Bird DC-3, AC-47s, even the C-47s as regular transport aircraft that they used at the time. Don't forget the Herky Bird C-130. That was a great driven aircraft back in the 60s. And there's a lot out there, folks. So I'd like to the F-4C Phantom in Vietnam colors, because I'm pretty familiar with that color scheme. And plus, when I was aboard a couple of bird farms, you know, I was pretty used to them too, in gold gray. So anyway, tomorrow we'll go ahead and start on Speedy's group build, and in between his build I will be turning to on my U.S.S. George Washington. Evidently U.S.S. George Washington, this is my first, actually my second submarine that I've built in many years. It's a very enjoyable kit. It's different, educational to say the least. Gives you a good idea how this thing works. So like I say, too bad the instructions don't give you an explicit view of detail of what parts of what. It's all exploded views of numbers and codes, boys. A lot of instructions used to be enjoyed years ago, and they used to word for word everything and tell you how to do it and everything. So they figure us human beings, we have superseded the word index of how to assemble a model. It's all by exploded views. So that'll be that on my George Washington. So I got stay tuned. I got a builds of the past coming up, and generally I like to have them done in the daytime, so it gives you boys plenty of time to tune in and comment and gander out. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for enjoying my builds of the past. So as long as you guys enjoy them, I'll keep posting them. And I'm enjoying life's sweet roses. So anyway, folks, that concludes my update build report number 2 on my ballistic submarine U.S.S. George Washington. And that'll be that. And that completes my update for the day, folks. Anyway, folks, I'd like to thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we should be hearing something about for Freddie pretty soon, about the surgery, how it come about. He has 3 hernias he needs to get squared away. And I imagine Freddie will be on the tube pretty soon, and he'll get back with us again. So, speedy recovery there, Freddie. Don't bend over too much, nothing like that, man. Don't do nothing. You want to break that mesh loose, buddy. You'd be the world hurt to do that. I see one guy's one time had a couple hernias like that turned to a rupture, and boy, he said, Frank, I got a hell of a knot there. That's your guts, buddy. because you got to realize your intestines and your insides is sealed inside of a translucent bag. You pop that bag loose like that, everything comes out. You can strangle yourself and die. So, special heed there, Freddie. Don't do any exercise like that. Let that thing heal gingerly and with dignity. Okay, boys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys' comments and everything like that. May God bless. Here you can see I got my yo-ho-ho hat on. It's getting Christmas time, and Mama Son's got a Christmas list, and so do I. And so far we got money saved, and like my pop used to say years ago, ain't what a man makes and what he saves. Boy, fellas, nowadays the cost of living nowadays is hard to save anything, but I imagine to save pretty good now. So I got a pretty good handsome son saved up. So that's plastic for me. And what Mama Son wants to get, she's on her own. Okay, boys, it's time to get off here right now. I'd like to thank everybody for your wonderful replies and your comments, and thank you for tuning in, and may God bless. Stay tuned for Builds of the Past coming up next. And tomorrow we'll have another update on Mark's group build 1960 aircraft. So thanks a lot, fellas. You all take care, boys, and we'll catch you on the next YouTube presentation. Bye, boys.